Greetings all! Well, I never said it was only going to be video games on this channel, so here's a physical game. Now, like many people, I do not have enough room in my house to set up the model railroad that I would like to set up. We have a big house, but somehow it seems to be completely taken over by a 5-year-old and his things. Indeed, the biggest space I've been able to find really that I can play around with is up here in the guest bedroom, where I have an area about 4.5 foot long by 1.5 foot deep. Best I can do. However, I figure what I will do then is to give the guests something to play with while they're staying over. And so I'm going to set up a puzzle for them, a train puzzle, because I happen to like trains. So what we're going to go over today is Inglenook Sidings. Now this is a shunting puzzle. In American we would say switching puzzle. However, the guy who invented it was Englishman. So a shunting puzzle it is. It's actually very simple. All you need are 2 switches, or turnouts, should you prefer, and enough track for 5, 8, 11, and about 15 cars worth, give or take. Now I've gone with N scale on this simply to make everything fit. Now you can probably get something almost as small if you were to go like turn of the century steam locomotives with small 40-foot cars or whatever, but I want to keep my options open for the big layers. I don't have to go to N or HO. We'll see. After the kid leaves for college, so that's another 13 or 14 years. I don't know. But anyway, this is a classic Inglenook in the 5-3-3 configuration. Now the way this thing works, and I'll put up a diagram, is you have a set amount of cars, a set amount of space, and the objective is within a certain amount of either time or number of moves, and you can figure it out yourself whichever way you want to do it, set up a consist of 5 cars behind the locomotive in a specific sequence. The 3 sidings. The long one has a capacity of 5 cars. The 2 small ones have a capacity each of 3 cars. And the head shunt, i.e. the bit in front of this last switch, is 3 cars and the locomotive. For other purposes, I try to get the cars and the locomotive to be about the same size. You can maybe see where this is going, but we'll come back to it another day. So anyway, this can be completely random. So I've randomly set up the 8 cars on the 3 sidings. And what I'm probably going to end up doing, though, is just for the sake of having a bit of competition, I'll always leave them in the same configuration as for any time somebody comes by, and that way it is a fair test as people compare notes, maybe leave a score sheet as to what you're doing. Now you will notice that this is not a scenic train set. This is a puzzle. Now it's not going to stop me from putting some scenery up. However, scenery is not the priority here, and in fact you can see I've kept the above table switches, which is fine for me because even though I have electrified the switches, some of them are not working quite as they should. I have no idea why, so having the manual backup is very handy. Yeah, I'll probably paint them out. I'll put some scenery on it, but you know, we're not there yet. But all you have to do to get going is just lay down the track, and away you go. So I have my 8 cars on the sidings. You have seen me shuffling the cars to be randomly selected, and you just put them, take 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I'm looking, this looks like it's going to be a relatively easy one, and 5. So that's all I have to do, is I have to get these 5 cars in sequence behind the locomotive. Easy as. So put the cars aside, I have my uncoupling tool, and away we go. Now I'm going to simply put this into fast forward mode because I tried this for the first time last night. It took me a good 15 minutes of trying to figure out how to move things around. I'm sure there is a pattern, or a technique like any other puzzle, but I haven't figured it out yet. So, as I say, I'll come back in a few minutes, and we'll just see how many moves. You can count the moves. You may not be able to tell the timer, but we'll count how many moves this takes. And I'll just check my timer at 14. Okay. Right, let's go. That was actually ludicrously simple. I mean, I did that in, about 3 minutes compared to the 15 it took me last night, but the cars were in more or less the right area. So just for the sake of an alternate, I'll have another crack at this. I'll reset things and we'll see if we can get a slightly more complicated example. Okay, we have our setup. So tank car, CN reefer, hopper, rail box, and BNSF. Gonna be a little bit trickier now because this has got to go to the front, and well, that's okay. The good news is that we don't need to attack this guy here, or indeed this guy here, so that should be a lot easier than some other options. So again, let's have a crack at it. And that is it. It is actually a very simple game to understand. Again, how difficult a evolution you're going to have is going to depend very much on the look of the card. So I just came out with two very easy ones. However, you get the idea. So I'll just call it quits there. You can go make your own, as I say. I mean, it just doesn't cost you a heck of a lot. It's not as if I'm going with a DCC setup or anything else here. There's a simple DC locomotive, good old-fashioned cheap MRC controller, and kind of large, not massively realistic Code 80 Atlas track. But yeah, there you go. Now, of course, again, the astute of you will have noticed that I've only used this one segment of track. Everything from here forward is not in use. That's another puzzle. If you know what you're looking at, you'll recognize it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on everything a little bit more and make it a bit more pretty. And then we'll come back to the other half of the game. So there you go. Inglenook Sidings. If you want to try it out, please let me know. Put a photograph somewhere and link to it there in the comments below if you're curious to see any other setups. So till then, take care.